Monster Synthesis Master. Chapter 221. I'm willing to call this exhibition the best. Soon, the young man followed the nobles and left. Walking out of the theater, he looked across the street and saw a sea of people. Many of the uptown's commoners were also gathered at the entrance, occasionally clapping and cheering. "Hurry up! Can't you see that there's a long line at the entrance?" The down-and-out noble in front waved his hand anxiously, signaling his companions to follow. The teenager quickly followed behind and ran to the other side of the road to line up. "Look, you can see the performance even before you go in." The noble in front pointed at the glass container not far away. The teenager looked in the direction she was pointing and saw a few cute little hamsters in the glass container. Shaggy's well-behaved appearance could melt the heart of a man of steel and stone with just a glance. Even the teenager couldn't help but smile when he saw the hamsters. Some of the hamsters were working out with many dumbbells, some were doing push-ups, and 2 of them were wearing cute little boxing gloves. They were boxing on the glued ring, and they looked quite decent. "Hey, this little hamster has become a spirit. This is interesting." The audience in line for ticket inspection moved forward while looking at the hamster paradise inside the glass cabin, which looked like a small fitness center. The young man's eyes lit up. He wanted to go in and take a look at these little hamsters. This was much more interesting than the groggy and fake pet beauty pageant that was full of flattery. The aristocrats in front of them stood on their tiptoes and peeked in as they lined up. There were also many in the audience who tilted their heads, wanting to take a look at the situation inside. These unconscious movements infected the teenager with the same emotions, and he couldn't wait to go in and see what kind of rare animals there were. Just as the young man was lining up, a breaking sound not far behind him caught his attention. A fiery red flamingo sedan car stopped at the roadside parking lot. Then, a group of security guards in black suits got out of the car, opened the back door, and held up black umbrellas. An enchanting woman in a bright red dress got out of the car, exuding a capable and experienced temperament. The water transportation gang's Vermilion Bird Hall's hall master, Me-na. The young man loved the quick revenge of the gangs in the slums. He knew the gangs and bosses in the slums like the back of his hand and recognized Red Widow Mina at a glance. Then, a few more cars stopped. There was an old man with white hair, a bald man with bulging muscles that made his beige striped suit look full, a sickly man with a gloomy face, and a middle-aged man with a solemn expression and a domineering aura. Wu Sanxi, the leader of the Black Tortoise Hall, Lei Zhuzi, the leader of the Thunder Tiger Hall, Zhao Heshan, the leader of the Viper Hall, as well as the leader of the Water Transportation Gang, Green Dragon, and the Red Double Flower Stick 9-patterned Dragon Centipede. The young man widened his eyes. The leaders of the 6 branches of the Water Transportation Gang, whose voices were usually heard but never seen, had all arrived. Fu jogged out of the exhibition hall with a smile and immediately came forward to welcome the group of people from the Inland Water Gang. "I didn't expect that all the hall masters would come to support me, please forgive me for not welcoming you. Please come in, our boss is inside." The group of people from the Water Transportation Gang entered the exhibition hall through the dedicated VIP passage, but the guests outside were not over yet. Soon, another luxury car was parked in the parking lot. A pair of twin flowers came out of the car. One of them was wearing a black suit and a pair of black high heels with red soles, revealing his fair and slender ankles. His short hair covered half of his sharp eyes. The other one was wearing a simple summer dress, her carefully woven long hair moving up and down with her brisk steps, like naughty waves on the bank. The arrival of the 2 made everyone's eyes light up. Hiss, could it be that the rumors were true? Is the young lady of the Newman family really going after Link? This is big news. If the Newman family and Kylan Hall join forces, we can't underestimate them. Pfft. The Newman family can't even protect themselves now. They used to rely on the breeding industry and high-end restaurants to gain a foothold, but now that the Feng family's Food for Heaven restaurant is becoming more and more famous in the uptown, many famous and rich people are eating at the Feng family's restaurant. It's getting harder and harder for the Newman family to do business in the food industry. They're just struggling to survive with their previous reputation. If this continues, I'm afraid that the title of the #1 family in the food industry will soon be replaced. Just as the young man was in a daze, Newman's twin daggers entered the exhibition hall through the VIP passage. There shouldn't be anyone here now, right? Before the teenager could finish his words, a thick black smoke swept up in the distance, followed by a few armored vehicles that drove over unscrupulously like bulls in the forest. Even in the uptown, which was full of aristocrats and elites, anything with military elements still had an indisputable ruling position. Soon, Li Zijun, the captain of the fox hunting special forces, as well as Commander Mun's only son, Benjamin, and fiancée, Jenny, alighted from the armored vehicle and entered the exhibition hall while chatting and laughing. The special forces soldiers were like wooden stakes nailed to the ground. They stood motionless around the armored vehicles, with strict military discipline. There's no more now, right? The young man murmured in his heart. He did not expect that while he was thinking, another black and steady extended car arrived at the door. From inside, a well-dressed middle-aged man who looked meticulous walked out. As soon as this person got out of the car, the originally lively atmosphere in the queue changed. Isn't Ying Luo the manager of Platinum Hotel, Ying Luo? The Platinum Hotel was regarded as the Grim Reaper by the ordinary people and the upper city nobles. If Derek, the owner of the Platinum Hotel in Shadu, was the Grim Reaper, then Thomas was the executioner behind the Grim Reaper. Thomas buttoned up his suit jacket and strode into the exhibition hall alone, carrying his things. In just a few minutes, so many famous people from Shadu had come to see the exhibition in person, which piqued the interest of many onlookers. Looking at the price of 20 wasteland coins, many people wavered. Why don't we line up and go in to take a look? We won't lose out even if we buy it for 20 yuan, and we'll be fooled if we don't. Soon, the young man was at the front of the line. After a simple ticket purchase and payment, he entered the exhibition hall smoothly. He would like to see how great the rare animal exhibition was, which could make the down-and-out nobles exclaim about how wonderful it was and even invite people to watch it and buy tickets repeatedly. As soon as he entered the exhibition hall, a loudspeaker-like sound shocked the young man. "You audience, don't crowd around the entrance. If you have nothing to do, go inside. There's more to see inside." "Sigh, you're really. You can just look, but why are you touching it? I'm warning you, you'll need to pay if you touch it. I'm warning you again. Take a picture, but don't turn on the flash. Be careful, watch where you're going when you're taking photos, all of you, move forward, don't block this way, the people outside won't be able to come over soon." The young man was dumbfounded. A colorful parrot that was more than 1 meter long was speaking fluently while guiding the audience. It wasn't the first time he had seen a parrot, but the parrot in front of him, Ching Ching, was no ordinary parrot. The parrots of other families imitated their words. The parrots here were rap. Chapter 222 No one understands women better than me. The young man knew that parrots could imitate human speech. However, the parrot in front of him had already gone beyond the scope of copying. She was even more cowardly than a human when she chatted with others. This is indeed a rare animal exhibition. This parrot alone didn't let me down. The young man suppressed the joy in his heart and followed behind the audience in front of him, shoulder to shoulder as they walked in. Because there was a large audience, the teenager could only follow the crowd and move forward slowly. Even if he stood on his tiptoes, he couldn't see the exhibition in front of him. He could only hear waves of applause. The anxious young man was like an ant on a hot pan, with all kinds of feelings but no way to speed up. The main reason for this situation was that everyone was curious about every rare animal. If they stopped in front of them for too long, they would have to stay at each booth for a long time, causing the audience behind to be congested and eventually form a long line. Just as the young man was queuing up and moving forward at a turtle's speed, the sound of the fast-mouthed parrot at the entrance rang out in the exhibition hall. The sound was so clear that it could be heard in the noisy exhibition hall. "Attention, everyone! Please keep the tickets. Each ticket has a number on it as the proof for today's exhibition's final draw. That's right, there'll be a lucky draw later in the exhibition. A total of 3 lucky audience members will be given a big gift, so everyone may be lucky, so you must keep your ticket." The young man turned around and poked his head out. He saw that the parrot didn't have any sound amplification equipment in front of it, but it could still burst out a loud and clear sound, no less than the sound of a horn. After waiting for about 6 to 7 minutes, the youngster finally arrived at the second booth. The moment he saw the animals on the stage, the young man's eyes widened, and even his mouth opened unconsciously. He was completely shocked. "This thing is a sculpture, right?" "What sculpture? Can't you see that the eyes can blink?" "Hiss, this gorilla that's covered in metal, is it real? It can't be a robot, right?" The audience around them whispered to each other. On the other hand, the gorilla on the seat was still in the pose of a thinker. Its muscles were bulging, and the metallic luster added a lot of light and darkness to it, making its muscles look more solid and well-defined. The gorilla supported its chin with one hand and held the Diamond Sutra in the other. The wild and cultural aura of a wild animal intertwined in an extremely harmonious way, giving people a deep shock. "By the way, does this gorilla understand the Diamond Sutra? In its eyes, it's like a ghost drawing talismans. It's clearly a gimmick. It's probably trained like a circus, just holding a book for show. But this metal armor fits perfectly. It's quite realistic, and the details are on point. I wonder if this gorilla is hot or not." Just as the audience was discussing, the guardian deity put down the Diamond Sutra in his hand and said, "The Diamond Sutra is difficult to understand. Even after reading it for a few days, I can't even understand 1/10 of it. However, I've basically memorized the contents. The first grade, Dharma meetings are divided according to reason. As I have heard, for a time, the Buddha was protecting the country's tree in the solitary garden, along with thousands of people from the great Bhikkhu. At that time, the revered one of the world would enter the city of the guards to beg for food. In the city, he returned them to the city. After the meal, he washed his feet and sat down. Second grade Kazaya. Vajra actually started to recite the contents of the Diamond Sutra. The audience around them gasped in shock, their minds blank. A gorilla that could speak, understand the Diamond Sutra, and even recite the entire text. King Kong raised his head and looked at the audience in front of him. He stretched out a hand and said, "As for whether this is armor or not, you'll know once you touch it." The blood vessels and muscle lines on its body were clearly visible, and they even shifted with the movement of its hand. The audience in the front row came back to their senses and carefully reached out to touch the back of King Kong's hand. The clear cold touch passed through the hair and skin to the nerves, and the audience gasped. Then, the audience knocked on the metal with the joints on the back of his hand, and the metal made a muffled bang. As everyone knew, if it was a layer of iron sheet or a hollow robot, then the sound of knocking must be crisp and echo. Only a solid metal would produce a dull metal sound. This is real. For a moment, the audience nearby was in an uproar. King Kong also knew that it was impossible to read in the current situation, so he simply raised his fist and interacted with the audience. The audience also had a tacit understanding and raised their fists one after another. When they walked past King Kong's booth, they bumped fists with it. This experience was particularly novel. The teenager also stretched out his weak fist and met force with King Kong. Up to this point, the young man had been completely convinced by the rare animal exhibition. After that, he saw a fragrant alpaca, and the saliva in his mouth was even more fragrant than perfume. There were many female audience members around the booth, constantly shouting and spitting at him in order to get the favor of the vanilla mud horse. There was also a little pig that could dance. With the rhythm of the movements, the dance posture and rhythm were quite good, and all kinds of stepping points and difficult movements were at her fingertips. The young man was so shocked that he almost thought that the pig was a leather cover with a living person inside. In the center of the exhibition was a sandbox surrounded by a huge glass cover, and a group of hamsters were in the sandbox. At this moment, he was holding a miniature gun model and simulating a gun battle in the complicated sandbox environment. He was having a great time. The most interesting thing was a 4-person card table in the corner. There was a curly-haired baboon on the table. It was very good at playing cards and could speak. If you're slow, you'll even say something like "I've waited until the flowers are wilting." When he didn't know what cards to play, he would still take out an exquisite teacup and pour a cup of Cabernet. It was indeed a high-class move. After looking around, the young man was completely attracted by the strange exhibition. He had seen these animals in zoos and on television before, but they all had their own characteristics and were extremely strange creatures. This was the first time he had seen them. Like the young man, it was the first time for everyone present to see such a clever and even human-like animal. Their eyes were filled with joy and excitement. This 20 yuan note was really worth it. At this moment, backstage, Ah Fu rushed in from outside. After Boss's synthesis, his constitution had been improved to the purest state, and the negative effects on his body had been completely eliminated. But today, he had to run back and forth to host the exhibition, and even Fu was sweating. "Boss, there's a group of women outside asking if they're selling the alpaca's saliva and the hamster on the sand plate in the middle." Third brother was shocked. First brother was just talking about the alpaca perfume and the hamster, and then Fu came to report to him. Link had an expression that said, "No one knows women better than me." Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by 2 voices. "Clan Master Lin, name your price." "I want that alpaca." "Link, we would like to buy that alpaca." "May I know how much it is?" The ones who spoke were the Vermilion Bird Hall's hall master, Mi-Na, and Anna, who had been pushed out by her sister. Chapter 223 A Vanilla Mud Horse Worth a Million. Third brother, Afu, and Alan, who were standing beside Link, felt the pressure in the air and took a step back in unison. Didn't Boss just say no one knows women better than him? Now, it's time to show his real skills. Mina glanced at Anna, who was as timid as a hamster, and then looked away. The big sister of the Newman family was still a little threatening, but this obedient girl standing out to fight was practically no threat at all. "Little girl, you're still young and don't need this. Give this alpaca to big sister." Mina stretched out her slender hand and wrapped it around Anna's soft shoulders. As expected, Anna started to panic, and her body unconsciously wanted to escape Mina's evil claws. Mina's pressure increased again as she approached Anna. The mature perfume on her body formed a strong pressure on the young girl. Anna's aura was getting weaker and weaker, almost turning into a little hamster hiding in the corner. "This alpaca is not for sale," said Link. "If you want its saliva, I can give you some." 500,000. Mina let go of him and put her hands in front of her chest. Under the effect of his arms, a scar that was more than 10 centimeters long appeared on his chest. It was like an abyss, as if it had a magical power of its own, and it unconsciously attracted people's attention. Upon hearing the price of 500,000, several people gasped, and the temperature backstage dropped a few degrees. One of them was the third brother. Third brother remembered that when he bought this alpaca from the seller, it was only worth around 10,000 wasteland coins. Because of the fragrance in its saliva, it had increased by 50 times in the blink of an eye. What kind of huge profit was this? Anna, who was standing beside him, was also shocked by the bid. A single alpaca could actually go as high as 500,000, this was simply crazy. The price that her sister had given her was at most 150,000 yuan. The others were also shocked speechless by the price. Even the king of wild beasts, the lion, tiger, and leopard, were only worth a few 100,000. However, when Elink heard the number, he only chuckled and said, "I already said it's not for sale. Sister Mina, please don't make things difficult for me. Mina stared at Link and said, 800,000. No one knew the value of alpaca saliva's fragrance better than Mina. This kind of natural and long-lasting saliva had a long-lasting fragrance. It was simply a perfume that women dreamed of. Collecting saliva to make perfume was enough to make all women go crazy. By then, the profit would be more than 800,000. Like I said, it's not for sale. 1 million, this was Mina's final bid, and the price had already shocked everyone. Sister Mina, you're giving me a lot, but I can't part with it. If Mina knew there were benefits to be gained, how could Link not know? As long as he could conquer the women of the upper city, it would be equivalent to conquering all the nobles of the upper city. No money was as easy to earn as women's money. Link was prepared to expand this business. Mina finally gave up and glared at Link resentfully. With a hint of anger and coquettishness in her voice, she said, I left an important meeting to come to the upper city to support you, but now you're not even willing to part with an alpaca. It's boring. I'm leaving. Mina was swift and decisive, and after saying that, she simply turned around and left. She suddenly turned around halfway, her fiery red hair swaying in the air. Coupled with the charm of her turning back, it made people's bones instantly go soft. Even if you don't give me the alpacas, you should at least send me a bottle of perfume. Link made an okay gesture to indicate that he had no problem with it. The Vermilion Bird Hall's hall master was worth roping in. In the water transportation gang, Old Turtle was a trusted ally because of John. Lei Juzi was an indecisive man, and Zhao Heshan, the sick scholar, was a hardcore supporter of the boss of Green Dragon. The only person he could rope in was Mina from the Vermilion Bird Hall. Mina got the answer she wanted and left, but Anna didn't dare to mention the topic again. She and her sister had underestimated the alpaca's price. They thought 150,000 was a high price. They didn't expect that even when Mina raised the price to 1 million, Link was unmoved. Everyone in the Kylan Hall was naturally dumbfounded. 1 million, that's 1 million, but the boss was unmoved and rejected it without any consideration. As a newly surrendered Alan, his mind was blank at the moment. Had he not researched the market for too long? An alpaca could actually be sold for a high price of 1 million? What was wrong with this world? Fu was the first to react. He did a quick calculation in his heart to see how many coffins he would have to carry to earn back 1 million. After getting the answer, he was a little surprised, but he quickly returned to normal. Boss, the exhibition hall outside is already full of people. The few display booths are also full of spectators. Should we start the lucky draw now? What's the situation on the other side? Asked Link, looking at the time. Fu flipped through his notebook and said, we're now going into a halftime break. After the performance, we'll announce the top 5. There's still about half an hour before the champion is announced. Link's lips curled up. He could already imagine the scene of people continuously pouring out of the theater and into the exhibition hall after the big news was announced. By the time the Grand Theater opposite officially announced the champion, there were only a few people in the audience. The thought of this made Link feel as if he had just taken a sip of iced Sprite, which flowed from his mouth all the way to his stomach. Then let's officially start the process. Has the process started? I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Benjamin appeared out of nowhere, followed by Li Zijun. As soon as they met, Li Zijun couldn't help but ask, I heard that you just rejected a deal worth $1 million. The value of this business is more than $1 million. Link waved his hand, signaling Fu to go back to the front. After a period of training, Fu could basically take charge of a field by himself. Judging from today's exhibition, Link didn't pay any attention to it. The installation and layout of the venue were all handled by Fu and Li Zijun. Soon, Lin Ke heard Fu's voice from the stage. Dear guests, today is the first rare animal exhibition held by Kylan Hall. Thank you for coming. In order to repay everyone's love, we've launched a lucky draw today. A total of 3 lucky people will be chosen to divide our grand prize. Everyone, look after the ticket in your hands. The number on it will be your lucky number. Hey, tell me what the grand prize is first. Some people in the audience started jeering. Fu smiled and said, since it's a grand prize, it must be very valuable. Let me keep you in suspense for a while. After the lucky audience members are selected, I'll announce the grand prize to everyone. Now, let's invite the organizers of this event, Link, the leader of the Shui Yun Gang's Kylin Hall, and Benjamin on stage to draw the lucky audience. Chapter 224. The moment the fragrant pig feast was announced, everyone was shocked. Link and Benjamin went up to the stage hand in hand. Looking at the crowd below the stage, it was like the surging crowd at the Shadu train station during the New Year. Benjamin had never spoken in front of so many people before, and his body immediately became stiff and nervous. It's fine, just follow the procedure on the card. Link patted Benjamin's shoulder and encouraged him. Lin Kai took the microphone from Ah Fu as the lucky draw box was moved onto the stage by the staff. I'm very grateful to everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this exhibition. I also hope that everyone will be in a good mood from the exhibition. I know that everyone is looking forward to the lucky draw, so I won't say any more nonsense. I'm afraid that if I continue, everyone will clench their teeth. Link's self-deprecating comment caused the audience to burst into laughter. Link was swift and decisive. With that, he rolled up his sleeves and reached into the lottery box. Fu took the opportunity to add, inside the lucky draw box are the tickets that you tore off when you lined up to enter. Later, you can compare the number to the number on the ticket holder. Please get ready to go on stage to receive your prize. Lin Kai reached his hand into the lucky draw box, and the situation inside the box appeared on the big screen behind him. Everyone could clearly see a hand stirring the contents of the box. There was another wave of whispers below the stage. In the past, the lucky draws that he had participated in might have been rigged, but he had never dared to direct the camera to the lucky draw box. This time, Lin Kai was very bold and directly used the live broadcast method from the box. This made the audience's eyes light up, and they felt a sense of respect. Lin Kai stirred for a long time before he finally picked up a ticket and took it out of the box. He opened the receipt and saw that it was number 137. Number 137, is number 137 here? If you are, please raise your hand. We will have security guards to escort you up to the stage to receive the award. A burst of cheers suddenly erupted from the audience. In the middle of the cheers was the lucky winner, a middle-aged man in plain clothes with a hunched back. From his travel-worn face and clothes, one could tell that he was an extremely ordinary citizen. One could even guess that he was engaged in some kind of hard physical labor. This made the audience even more excited. If even this seemingly poor citizen could be chosen, then their chances were even greater. A professional security team in black walked up to audience number 137 and escorted him all the way to the stage. After Link's draw, Benjamin did the same as well. This time, he drew a lady from the uptown who was tightly covered and did not fit in with her surroundings. The last ticket was still drawn by Link. The young man who had sneaked out of the theater did not expect that he would be the one to eat the melon after buying a ticket for $20. He became the third lucky audience member and was escorted to the stage in a daze. After that, under Fu's guidance, the three of them introduced themselves. The first middle-aged man had come to the uptown with his child on the weekend and happened to see the rare animal exhibition. He had spent dozens of yuan to buy a ticket to enter, but he had not expected to become a lucky audience. The second woman, who had covered herself up tightly, had just given birth and was bored at home after confinement. She had quietly come out and saw that there was a rare animal exhibition here, so she had paid to come in and see. The reason for covering it tightly was to ensure her body temperature, but also to prevent her family from recognizing her. Tisk, this sister was also a warrior, leaving just like that. The third person was even more interesting. The young man frankly said that he was bored at the rare animal beauty contest opposite, so he sneaked over to take a look. Link's face almost bloomed into a smile when he heard this. He even joked that he would pay for the young man's advertising fees. The scene was filled with a happy atmosphere. All right, let's officially announce the prizes. Congratulations on receiving a bottle of alpaca perfume, a pet hamster, and a pig feast from Kylan Hall. When the tightly covered woman heard that she could get the alpaca perfume, she removed her veil in excitement and asked, "Did I hear you right? You're really giving me a bottle of alpaca?" At this moment, all the women in the audience were looking at the mother who had just given birth with envy. There were even people who were already shouting at the other two winners. "Little brother, sell the perfume to big sister. I'll pay 5,000. Sir, I don't think you'll need the perfume. Why don't you sell it to me? I'll buy it at a high price. Little brother, I'll give you the money. If you want to carry out some exploration, I'm willing to accompany you, Ying Luo." The middle-aged man and the young man on the stage were dumbfounded. This group of women. This is crazy. I'm still a child. I'm different. I don't want the perfume. I just want to know how much the hamster is worth. Are you willing to part with it? The audience was also interested in the cute little hamster. It would be a pity if they didn't have such a spiritual pet. Only the so-called pig banquet was ignored. It was just a meal, no big deal. But soon, everyone's point of view would have a 180-degree change. When the staff pushed the dining cart onto the stage and the 3 tables and chairs were all set up, they were all seated. As the lid was opened, a strange aroma instantly filled the entire exhibition. Almost everyone's nose twitched subconsciously, greedily sucking in the fragrance in the air. Why is the pork so fragrant? What kind of pork is this? I've never smelled such fragrant pork before. Did you add something to it? I can't take it anymore. This smell is too intoxicating. It's even more intoxicating than alpaca's perfume. The crowd exploded in an instant. Everyone was curious about what kind of pork this was. The 3 of them, who originally didn't have much expectation for the fragrant pig feast and even felt that it was quite embarrassing to eat on the stage, had their eyes lit up at this moment. They stared at the rich and exquisite fragrant pig feast on the table and couldn't stop swallowing their saliva. The fragrant pig feast on the table is made from the special breed of small fragrant pigs from the Kylan Hall. The meat is fine and the taste is smooth. This meat also has a good effect. It can cure illnesses and strengthen the body if it's not sick. The middle-aged man from the first slum district couldn't help but ask, "Can I bring my child here to eat with us? I can't finish this much by myself, and we haven't eaten anything since we came to the uptown today, Ying Ying." "Of course you can. Just tell the security guards and ask them to help bring him up." Perhaps it was because he was too hungry, the middle-aged man brought his child on stage and began to gobble up the food. The audience's faces all darkened. While they were feasting in the audience, the award-winning audience on stage had their mouths full of oil. This was simply a torture. The young lady who was still in confinement looked at the table full of delicious food and simply started eating. Today, she had sneaked over alone without bringing anyone else, so she simply ate alone. Originally, one shouldn't eat such greasy food during confinement, but it was too fragrant, so he couldn't help but eat it. However, after a few bites, she felt some wonderful changes in her body. She couldn't help but look up at the father and son from the slums. She found that the man's eyes were also wide open and his face was full of surprise. Chapter 225. Where did the audience go? The audience was full of complaints. Can eating pork strengthen the body and cure diseases? Was this some new trickery? However, because they had seen a wonderful rare animal exhibition today, everyone was a lot more tolerant of the organizers' exaggeration. After all, for such a large-scale exhibition, the ticket only cost 20 yuan. They couldn't even cover the cost. "Isn't it just bad money? I'll do it for you." It was just that the people on top were eating with their mouths full of oil, and the audience could only smell the fragrance and watch from below, which was a bit inappropriate. It must be on purpose. The planner of this exhibition is definitely a pervert with psychological problems. Do you also feel the changes in your body? The middle-aged man asked. The lady who was in confinement at the next table nodded and said excitedly, "It was very uncomfortable to recover during confinement, but after eating this pork, I suddenly feel relaxed. All the soreness in my body from before is gone. It's as if there's a warm current in my body, and I even feel that I'm a little stronger than before I gave birth." The middle-aged man's pupils contracted sharply, and he hurriedly stood up, stammering because of his excitement. Yes, I feel the same way. It's like I've been reborn." The middle-aged man's arms were strong, and his back, which was hunched because he had been carrying heavy things for a long time, gradually straightened with the sound of bones cracking. His mental state was completely different. The ordinary audience below the stage didn't think much of it, but some people could see the trick. Li Zijun's brows were tightly knitted. With her naked eyes, she could see that the middle-aged man's aura had become more and more powerful. Zhao Heshan's eyes flickered. He found that the woman's life aura, which had been lost because of childbirth, had a slight increase. Although it was only a little, he could clearly feel the difference. "There's something good about this fragrant pig feast, he. There were also doctors in the audience who brought their children to the exhibition during the weekends. They could not help but rub their eyes and say, that middle-aged man's hunchback is caused by heavy objects all year round. I've been observing him just now, and he's been stubborn for at least 10 years. It's impossible for him to be so straight. There's a second pregnant woman. Didn't you notice? When she took off her veil, her face was still a little pale, but now, her cheeks are full of color. Could it be that this fragrant pig feast can really cure illnesses and strengthen one's body? This shouldn't be, Ying Luo." The doctor fell into silence. The structure of pork had long been explored clearly, and there were only a few ordinary things that were beneficial to the body. However, there had never been any effect of pork that could instantly cure decades of stubborn illness. This had already gone beyond the scope of diet therapy. This was directly equivalent to immortal pills or genetic engineering. When the teenager sitting in the third seat heard that this pig banquet could really strengthen the body, the first thought in his mind was his grandfather, who was weak even when he walked. If her grandfather could eat a few pieces of meat, would his body become stronger? Once this thought came to mind, it was like seaweed growing wildly in the water, and there was no way to stop it. "Hello, may I bring my grandfather over to eat with us? He's in the theater right now." The young man had wanted to beg for an exception, but Link agreed without hesitation. He didn't even have a chance to speak. "No problem. I'll keep this table for you. Quickly go and get your grandfather. I really couldn't tell that you're so filial." Naturally, Lin Ke would not let go of any opportunity to win over the audience. The teenager quickly jumped off the stage, squeezed through the crowd, and went straight to the Grand Theatre. At this moment, at the Grand Theatre, as the rare animal fair across the street was in full swing, many people in the back seats had already quietly run out to join in the fun. At this moment, the top 5 were already being selected on the big stage. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Through the stage lights, the nervous expressions and movements of the ladies in the front row could be clearly seen. But backstage, An Sheng, the president of Shandu Entertainment News, was livid. "What's going on? Why are the people in the back row moving so fast and the back door of the theatre opening so easily?" The newspaper staff all lowered their heads and looked nervous. "Maybe Ran needs to rest in the middle to go to the toilet because the process is too long." "Toilet my ass! People only went out and never came in. Who would go to the toilet for half an hour and not come back? Open your dog eyes and look, the back row is almost empty. Where are they? Where is he?" An Sheng flew into a rage. He had been paying attention for a long time and felt that something was going to happen. The staff member immediately ran away. A few minutes later, he came back with sweat all over his head and said, "President, I've found it." These people who had gone out had all gone to the rare animal exhibition organized by the Kylin Hall opposite. There's a huge crowd on the other side right now, and the line at the ticket inspection office is a few hundred meters away. And Sheng's eyes widened in shock. How can there be so many people on the other side? Is there a reward for pulling in people? And Sheng couldn't figure it out no matter what. His Shandu entertainment newspaper had a strong influence, and the final circle was filled with uptown's dignitaries. There was no lack of people fawning over them. Regardless of the ratings, at least the entire theater hall should be full. I heard that there are talking parrots, reading orangutans, playing cards monkeys, and so on in this Kazaya. And Sheng was even more confused now. Just this? What's so strange about these things? Aren't there many circuses that are more awesome than this? And Sheng stuck his head out and saw that there were fewer and fewer people in the back row. It was like building a castle on the beach. Every time the waves came, they would take away a lot of sand from the sand castle. Go, quickly send someone to ask what's going on. We can't let anyone else leave. Otherwise, when the top 3 come on stage to receive their awards, there will be no one left. Only then did Sheng realize the seriousness of the situation. If the wives of the rich and powerful went on stage to receive the award and saw the sparse audience below the stage, they would definitely hold him accountable without much thought. The teenager rushed back to the Grand Theatre. She panted as she reached for the seat beside her grandfather. The old man was sitting in his seat, his head nodding from time to time. His eyes were also blurry, as if he was sleeping and not sleeping. "Grandpa, Grandpa!" The teenager gently pushed him twice, and the old man trembled all over, as if he had just woken up from a dream. He wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and saw that his grandson had returned. He asked, "When did you come back? What time is it now? Are the top 3 going to be announced soon?" The old man glanced around and realized that the seats that were previously filled were now empty. The people around him seemed to have disappeared without a trace. "Grandpa, there's still 10 minutes to go before the top 3 are announced. I'm going to take you to the other side to have a pig feast. It's good for your body." When the old gentleman heard that the top 3 would be announced in 10 minutes, his expression immediately became serious. "What are you eating for? The top 3 are about to be announced. We have to sit here and wait for the results. I'll go up to congratulate you immediately." The young man saw his grandfather's stubbornness and glanced at the time. He didn't have time to explain. He gritted his teeth and made up his mind. "Grandpa, I'm sorry." With that, the young man picked up the old gentleman and ran out of the theater. Chapter 226 A Medical Miracle. The old gentleman was dumbfounded. Before he could react, the main color in front of him changed from black to light. The bustling crowd on the road and the cars passing by in the middle of the road clearly told the old man that he had been kidnapped by his grandson. "You little brat, you're disgraceful, the top 3 are about to be announced, you're trying to get our family killed." The old gentleman was carried on his shoulder, and he felt that his body was about to fall apart. But even at this time, the old gentleman did not forget to reach out and adjust the red bow tie around his neck. "Grandpa, I'll tell you the whole story later, but it's almost too late now." The young man ran across the road and carried his grandfather into the exhibition hall. At this time, the old man saw the staff of Shandu Entertainment newspaper loitering at the entrance of the exhibition hall, and his face suddenly turned pale. If these 2 staff members recognized him and gossiped about him in front of President Sheng, then his small and down and out family would be gone. Not to mention congratulating Mrs. Wimbledon, she might not even be able to enter the Grand Theatre in the future. "Quickly put me down. Little brat, do you know that this is related to the rise and fall of our family?" "No, I only know that your body is the only thing that concerns the rise and fall of the family." The youngster was also very stubborn. Not only did he not have any intention of letting go, but he held on even tighter. No matter how the old gentleman struggled, he could not move. Make way, make way. I'm one of the lucky audience members, and I brought my grandpa here for dinner. The young man was like the wind, and in a flash, he rushed into the exhibition hall with the old gentleman. The staff of Shudu Entertainment newspaper, who was investigating and dissuading at the door, looked at the young man and the old man on his shoulder who had rushed in. He was stunned and said, "Are the kid, the Kazaya, and the old man on my shoulder from the Menlo family? I think Ying Luo is." The young man quickly entered the exhibition hall, and security guards immediately rushed up to protect him and escorted him to the stage. The old gentleman saw that the entire exhibition hall was filled with people, and his mind went blank. This group of people didn't watch the rare animal beauty contest in the Grand Theatre and came here to watch an exhibition held by a non-governmental organization. The young man walked to his table and put his grandfather down. "Grandpa, I was selected as the lucky audience when I came to watch the exhibition. This pig banquet is one of the prizes." At this moment, the old gentleman looked at the time. There were only 5 minutes left before the top 3 would be announced, and his good grandson had forcefully brought him to this place. The old gentleman swept a glance below the stage. The crowd was densely packed, and with his old bones, he would probably lose half his life when he squeezed out. "Unfilial son, unfilial son. You've ruined a good opportunity for our family to develop. Do you know what it means for you to bring me here? It means that we've lost a chance to show our face. Without Mrs. Wimbledon's face, we can't do business at all. Eat, 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 you only know how to eat. What's so good about a meal of pork, Yehu?" Before he finished speaking, the young man opened the lid of the dish, and the fragrance overflowed like a wave. The old gentleman with a ferocious face and eyes that looked like they were about to burst suddenly froze. The rest of his scolding stopped abruptly, and the tip of his nose twitched up and down subconsciously. It smells so good." The old gentleman couldn't help but swallow his saliva as he looked at the dazzling array of fragrant pig dishes on the table. His thoughts were like a puppet controlled by a rope, and his body and brain were completely dominated by his instincts. Perhaps, eating the pig feast isn't a bad choice. The moment this thought appeared in his mind, the old gentleman's entire body quivered and he suddenly woke up. He didn't know when he had grabbed a pig's elbow in his hand. "Sigh, it's too late to go over now anyway. Let's eat first." The old gentleman was helpless. He vented his anger and helplessness on the food and took a big bite. The old gentleman's eyes suddenly lit up as he ate a mouthful of pork. He was 71 years old this year, an old man who had transcended the old era. However, in the 71 years he had lived, he had never eaten such delicious pork. It melted in his mouth, leaving a fragrance in his mouth. His mind seemed to be in waves, and his heart swayed. This is too delicious." When the soft and sticky pork entered his stomach, it instantly turned into a warm current that began to flow through his entire body, nourishing his dried meridians and muscles. The old gentleman immediately felt much better. The young man was dumbfounded. Her grandfather had a very small appetite at home and would only eat a palm-sized bowl of rice every time. However, after smelling the fragrant pig feast today, he actually ate heartily. In his memory, the image of his grandfather eating heartily was already rather blurry. When the teenager also started to eat, the expression on his face was as if he had seen a miracle. The grandfather-grandson duo's attention was completely focused on the dining table at the moment. They did not care about the countless people below the stage looking at them. Even the lucky audience members from the other 2 tables who had already finished their food were looking at them with joy and shyness at the moment. Their faces had a kind of doubt that said, "Could this be how I ate just now?" In just a few minutes, the grandfather and grandson had swept away all the fragrant pig banquet on the table, not wasting a single bit. The old gentleman took a bite of the pig bone, sucked the last of the cartilage and the meat in the cracks clean, and let out a long breath after putting it down. "Ah, it feels so good." When the old gentleman stood up again, he couldn't help but stretch. Just as the old gentleman woke up in the morning. Embrace the sun. Full of positive energy. When he stretched his back, his entire body suddenly froze. He remembered that his body was already on the verge of collapse, and he had to gasp for breath every 3 steps and rest every 5 steps to go to the theater. But now, he felt that he was in good spirits. His entire body was filled with energy, as if he had become a dozen years younger. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he could fight 10 of himself now. What did I eat? My bones don't hurt anymore, and I feel like I'm stronger. My spirit has also improved a lot. The young man giggled. Grandpa, now you know why I brought you here to eat the fragrant pig banquet. This fragrant pig banquet can cure illnesses and strengthen the body if you're not sick. It's much better than spirit pills. My good grandson, Grandpa has misunderstood you. The old gentleman laughed. As the saying goes, when a person encounters a happy event, he would be in high spirits. He would instantly feel as if he had become 10 years younger. This made the old gentleman feel as if he was an old steed waiting to pounce on a steed. The audience was already dumbfounded. The effects of the 2 moves were obvious and visible to the naked eye. This old man had been pale when he was carried over. When he was placed on the stage, his legs were trembling and his body was hunched. However, after eating the fragrant pig feast, his back was straight, and his mental state was so good that it would not be a problem for him to go to the square dance to meet his wife and feel the second spring of his life. This is a medical miracle. In just a few minutes, I've already seen 3 such examples. Is this pig banquet really so terrifying? The audience was whispering. He had originally thought that the alpaca perfume and hamster were the best rewards, and that the pig banquet was just a casual meal. But now, it seemed that the incense pig feast was just as Link had said. It cured the sick and strengthened the body. Link saw that the atmosphere had reached its peak, so he picked up the microphone and said, "Everyone has seen the effects of the pig banquet with their own eyes. It's the real deal." These 3 lucky audience members were also drawn on the spot by Benjamin and me. There's no possibility of cheating, so there's naturally no such thing as a lie. From now on, the fragrant pig feast will only be served in the glorious hotel under the Kylan Hall. There will be a limited supply of 7 tables per week, 1 table a day. It will be held in an auction with a base price of 20,000 and the highest bidder will get it. In addition, the Newman family will be the only cooperative supply point in the entire chateau. 5 restaurants will each provide 1 table every week, and they will also use the same bidding method. Chapter 227 Lingsha is crazy. When Lin Ke finished his announcement, the audience was stunned. The middle-aged man, the woman in confinement, and the old gentleman were all dumbfounded. This pig banquet actually costs 20,000 wasteland coins. They ate a pig feast worth 20,000 wasteland coins in a few bites? Even many nobles in the uptown couldn't spend 20,000 wasteland coins, even if they were extravagant. It must be known that this was only the starting price. For this set of fragrant pig banquet that could cure diseases and strengthen the body, there would definitely be many people who would go all out to buy it. The final price was definitely not 20,000. The glorious hotel serves 7 tables a week, while the restaurants under the Newman family serve 5 tables a week. That means that the entire Sand City only serves 12 tables a week. This is too little. Those uptown and powerful people will definitely fight each other for a meal. As expected of the Newman family, to ride on the Kylan Hall's coattail. Previously, I thought that the Kylan Hall was trying to curry favor with the Newman family, but now it seems like the Newman family is trying to curry favor with the other party. With the fragrant pig feast, the Newman family's name as the top high-end restaurant can finally be established. The audience was whispering to each other, but some people couldn't keep their expressions. I was born a coward, oh no, I'm wrong, I'll start again. Which family did not have people who died of old age and illness? However, the price of the fragrant pig banquet was in the tens of thousands, which was not something that ordinary families could afford. Link passed the microphone to Fu, who continued, "Now, let's invite the person in charge of the Newman family, the only partner of the Little Pig brand, Miss Laura, to give a speech on stage." Wearing a black suit, Laura went on stage. A smile finally appeared on her cold face. "Thank you, Leader Lin, for giving the Newman family this opportunity. We've always been committed to our success." After Laura's speech, everyone returned to the backstage, leaving Fu alone on the stage to continue announcing the breaking news. The hamster is priced at 3,000 wasteland dollars. First come, first served. The alpaca perfume was limited to 50 bottles, each bottle was 10,000 waste coins. It was also on a first come, first served basis, and each person was limited to one bottle. When the audience heard the price, their interest dissipated. After all, for most people, 3,000 wasteland money was enough for a few months of expenses. It was extravagant to buy a hamster. However, the eyes of some of the rich and powerful people in the audience lit up. Not to mention anything else, if he bought this hamster for 3,000 wasteland coins, he could sell it for 5,000. There was also the alpaca amniotic fluid, which cost 10,000 wasteland coins a bottle. With the consumption power and jealousy of the upper urban area's noble ladies, they had to get a bottle no matter what. Customers who want to buy hamster or alpaca perfume, please go to the waiting area in the northwest corner of the exhibition hall. Fu led the audience to a special place in the exhibition hall, so as to not hinder other audience members. Just this one move separated the rich from the ordinary people in the exhibition hall. Backstage. Seeing so many people who were interested in buying, it would be a lie to say that Laura wasn't envious. The Newman family's high-end restaurant in the uptown cost more than a few thousand yuan per meal, but that was the price of the entire chain from production to processing. This also included all kinds of costs, so he wouldn't be able to earn much from a meal. But now, a hamster was being sold for 3,000 yuan, and a 50 milliliter bottle of perfume could be sold for 10,000 yuan. This was daylight robbery. Congratulations, Hall Master Lin. The Kylin Hall has earned a lot this time. Link smiled with a glass of champagne in his hand. It just so happens that everyone likes it. Haha. Lola chuckled. Clan leader Lin is always so humble. She turned around and stared at Link. But I just heard that clan leader Lin said that no one knows women better than you. Link took a sip of his champagne, unafraid of Laura's scrutinizing gaze. Instead, he glanced at Anna, who was standing not far away. Anna and Link's eyes met. Suddenly, they turned into frightened rabbits and immediately looked down at the poster in their hands. If you want to earn money from women, you have to understand their mentality. Jealousy and a sense of belonging will bring them a strong emotional value. Coupled with the social circle of uptown's noble socialites, this feeling will be multiplied. This is the meaning of the limited amount. If she has you but not you, you'll think and compare. Her family background, looks, power, and wealth were all inferior to his, but she had something he didn't have. This kind of jealousy was like poison, making you focus all your attention on this matter, not thinking about food and water every day, and going crazy for it. When that time comes, even if you pay 10 times the price, you will still go after it like a flock of ducks, looking forward to it. Lola looked at Link in a daze. After a while, she shivered. Clan leader Lin, you really do understand women. I can't help it, said Link with a faint smile. If you want to earn money, you have to know more. Laura looked at the crowd swarming to the corner of the booth. Many of them were socialites she knew. At this moment, in order to get a spot, they were no different from aunties who were fighting for cheap eggs in the morning market. Their hair was in a mess, and the sky was dark. On the other hand, she and her sister, Anna, had each received 2 bottles of alpaca perfume from Link. Watching others fight over a bottle while he easily got 2 bottles, the sense of superiority that grew deep in his heart was really irresistible. Lola let out a long sigh. The cooperation is a success based on the current situation. The Newman family's position should be safe. Why are you still sighing? Lola glanced at Link and said, I'm sighing because with Master Lin's strong personality, once he sets a trend and influence in the uptown through the alpaca perfume, the hamster pet, and the pig banquet, I'm afraid that the noble ladies and ladies of the upper city will not have a good life in the future. Laura could even imagine that every time a new product was launched in the future, the noble ladies of the uptown would swarm to her and fight for a spot. Showing off and jealousy were definitely the two great weapons of women. There would definitely be a lot of disputes and conflicts because of this. Finally, it's our last segment for today. We'll be bidding for the 12 pig feasts next week, Ying Luo. There was no need to doubt the effects of the pig banquet. There were doctors present as witnesses, and among the 3 lucky audience members was a small noble family from the uptown Menlo family. This made the effects of the pig banquet even more credible. Just as Fu started the bidding on the stage, the top 3 winners were announced in the theater. An Sheng, the president of Shandu Entertainment News, looked livid. The situation was now clear. It was all Link's doing. Looking at more than half of the people below the stage, fear was hidden in the depths of An Sheng's eyes. Later on, when the ladies group went on stage to receive the award and saw that most of the people below the stage had left, what would they think? Chapter 228 An Empty Award Ceremony. Next, let's invite An Sheng, the president of Shandu Entertainment newspaper, to announce the top 3 winners of this year's Rare Pet Beauty pageant. An Sheng took a deep breath and adjusted his expression. He tidied up his suit and walked up the stage with the card. I've made everyone wait for a long time. This year's Rare Animal Beauty pageant has once again set off a gluttonous feast in Shandu. Countless spectators are enthusiastically looking forward to the 3rd place in Yaji. I won't keep you in suspense and will just announce it. An Sheng took out the winners list and pretended to be surprised after opening it. He felt that everyone's eyes were focused on him. In the 9th Rare Animal Beauty contest, the 3rd place winner is Qian Qian, the wife of Commander Dai, Mrs. Dai. An Sheng clapped hard, and there was also sparse applause from the audience. Mrs. Dai originally had a smile on her face. This time, she had finally won 3rd place with her head held high. But when she turned around to look, her expression suddenly became stunned. She found that there were not many audience members behind her. No wonder there was so little applause. The runner-up is Madam Deputy Commander Fernandez. The champion of this year's competition is the wife of Commander Win Leighton. Please welcome the 3 of them to the stage to receive the award. With An Sheng's confident announcement, the lights in the theater were turned on and passionate music started playing. The 3 commanders' wives all had fake smiles on their faces. When they walked up the stage and looked down, their smiles were a little stiff. They all looked at the host, Fang Anshen. The entire theater had more than 10 rows, but at this moment, only the first 3 rows were still occupied. The back seats were empty. They clearly remembered that it was full of people when they came in. The award ceremony hadn't even started yet, so why was everyone gone? There is something strange about this matter. Please don't be impatient, and I will give you an explanation after it is over. Let's get through the awards ceremony and the live broadcast first. When the 3 of them heard this, they all took a deep breath and temporarily suppressed the anger in their hearts. They forced smiles on their faces and proceeded with the award ceremony. The joy in his heart was washed away by the situation in front of him. An Sheng braced himself and continued the process. At this moment, the theater's door was pushed open again, and a lady walked back to her seat with confidence. Ayo, why are you guys still here? Do you know that the rare animal exhibition across the street is already going crazy? This time, it was the lady in the first 3 rows who was curious. Are you talking about the exhibition opposite? I heard that it's opened by a gang leader in the slums. What's so good about that kind of low-end exhibition? I'm afraid that only the dirty and smelly bottom-class people go there. His words showed his disdain for the slums. Then you're wrong. Look at who's still in the theater. The socialites and nobles in the first 3 rows glanced around and were surprised to find that the theater hall behind them, which was full of people, had been empty without them noticing. Where did they all go? I went to that very low-class exhibition you mentioned. You guys will never think that there's anything good there. Cute hamsters, metal gorillas that can talk, glib parrots, curly-haired baboons that can drink tea and play cards, and most importantly, alpacas that can spit perfume. The socialite said as she took out a beautifully packaged alpaca perfume and sprayed a little on herself. This perfume has a long-lasting effect, and the effect lasts for 12 hours. It's only limited to 50 bottles. Fortunately, I got there early and managed to grab one. When the socialites and ladies smelled the fragrance of the alpaca perfume, their eyes lit up like weasels who had seen chickens at night. They had never smelled this fragrance before. After spraying them twice, they all had a faint fragrance on their bodies. No matter how hard they blew, the smell didn't dissipate. Oh my God, why is the perfume so long-lasting? Did they add any additives? Add what? I saw the alpacas puke out with my own eyes. How can it be fake? I heard that a female gang leader offered $1 million to buy that alpaca, but the other party didn't even sell it. Hiss, he didn't even sell it for $1 million, could he be faking it? This kind of thing is very common, don't be deceived Ying Luo. Humph, how is this cheating? The most expensive one is the fragrant pig banquet, which can cure diseases and strengthen the body. There are only 12 tables a week, and you can't guess how much one table is worth. A table of fragrant pig feast was auctioned on the spot, and a table was sold for a high price of 100,000. All the rich ladies and socialites present gasped. 100,000 yuan for a meal. Is it eating gold? If you think that the Kui family and the Cavan family will be fooled by this stupid trick, then go ahead. After the woman finished speaking, she waved her hand at the crowd. All right, I'm going to get my pet hamster from the butler. See you later. After the woman turned around, she immediately felt refreshed. He had finally shown his face in front of these noble ladies. Because her husband's position in the government was not high, she could barely squeeze into the circle of these rich ladies' best friends. She had always been in the role of currying favor with them, but today, with the help of the alpaca perfume, she could finally hold her head high. This feeling was indescribable, it was too addictive. The other ladies gritted their teeth in anger as they looked at the other party's carefree back. A small family had entered the industry by sucking up to them, but now they were even more arrogant than them. How could they tolerate this? It's just a bottle of perfume. I don't believe I can't buy it. Let's go and take a look. What status do we have? How can we let this guy ride on our heads and show off his strength? With the orders of the leading ladies, the other members of the ladies' group followed closely behind and rushed to the rare animal exhibition opposite. Only a few ladies glanced at the stage and then at the large group that was leaving. They were in a dilemma. After considering for a moment, he gritted his teeth and made a gesture of putting his hands together on the stage. Then, he ran out. At this moment, all the seats in the theater were empty, and the whole scene was very awkward. "Sheng, you'd better give me an explanation," Mrs. Wimbledon said through gritted teeth. The other 2 ladies also stared at Sheng with murderous eyes, hoping that he would give an explanation. Sheng's mind went blank. These 3 people were people who could shake even in the sand. Among the 4 commanders under General Alongso in the military of Shadu, other than Commander Mun's wife, who came from a scholarly family and didn't like such occasions, the other 3 ladies were all in front of him. If he didn't give them a reasonable explanation this time, he would probably be gone tomorrow. There was no one in the audience. Facing the 3 commanders' wives, Sheng immediately signaled to the backstage to end the live broadcast. Seeing that the live signal of the camera was turned off, the 3 ladies' faces suddenly collapsed and they asked, "Now, President N, you should give us a reasonable explanation, right?" His voice was cold and unfeeling, causing one to shiver. Just then, the three ladies received a text message on their phones at the same time. I don't have time to explain. Come to the other side. If I'm late, the alpaca perfume will be snatched away, and I won't be able to raise my head in the ladies' group in the future. The three of them immediately exchanged glances. Regardless of what the alpaca perfume was, the last sentence alone was enough to make the three commanders' wives unable to stand it. No matter what it was, they had to get it. You better give us an explanation when we come back. After Mrs. Wimbledon said that, she immediately called for the servants, and the other two did the same. The three of them rushed to the opposite side. President An looked at the empty theater and knelt on the ground with a plop. Chapter 229 The Three-Man Group of Sharp and Mean. Lin Ke looked at the crowded exhibition hall and smiled. He had made the right move. As the exhibition hall was already full, and there were still many citizens waiting in line outside to come in to visit, Fu urgently launched an emergency plan and opened up a larger lawn garden behind the exhibition hall to relieve the pressure of viewing the exhibition. Link and Benjamin were drinking tea backstage, while Ah Fu was running around, coordinating all sorts of emergencies. Li Zijun had been staring at Fu and couldn't help but sigh. Link, you're really good at teaching. It's only been a few days, and Fu has gone from a simple-minded country bumpkin to an elite who does things with lightning speed. Link smiled like an old father and waved his hand. It's not that I taught him well, it's just that his comprehension is high enough. I just threw the matter to him. As for what to do and what to arrange, I didn't say a word. If we are talking about contribution, then the Thief Liang person's contribution is greater than mine. Thief Liang people? The mutant from your hall. Li Zijun still had memories of the bandit Liang people. When she was doing contact work with Ah Fu, there were a few times when the bandit Liang people picked up the phone. That's right. This guy has a good sense of business, so I asked him to help Fu take over the business street. Now it seems that this guy has some skills. Li Ziqi adjusted her sunglasses and came over in a mysterious manner. The outlanders in your hall have also disappeared, right? Of course. All the outlanders have disappeared, but before they left, they still managed to bring Fu out of his apprenticeship. You said last time that other forces might be involved in the secrets of the mutants, is that true? Li Zijun's expression was serious. This matter was related to the future and resume of her commander, so she had to take it seriously. A mercenary who can be revived, can learn quickly, and can grow rapidly. Would you want one if you were me? Li Zijun was silent for a while. All right, I understand. She said. Link summarized the Inhuman's characteristics in a short sentence. Due to its ability to resurrect, if carefully cultivated, it would definitely be a sharp blade for carrying out high-risk missions. How could such a divine weapon be monopolized by the Freedom Federation? The various major forces would definitely think of ways to steal the experimental data and secrets of the three major bases and find ways to summon their own mutants. As far as Li Zijun knew, there were many ruthless people in these extremist forces. If they really joined forces, the desert base where the commander was located did not seem to be airtight. Link took out 2 bags and said, "This is alpaca perfume, 5 portions per person. Whether you take it back for your own use or give it to someone else, it'll give you face." Benjamin took the paper bag with a smile. I knew that Brother Lin had already made preparations. When Jenny found out, she would definitely rush to get it. This is great, I can give her a surprise, Ying Luo. Li Zijun frowned, but she did not take the bag. Why are you giving me this? I don't use perfume. If you like a girl, said Link, you can just give it to her. It'll be much easier. Li Zijun considered for a moment before taking the bag. Brother Lin, for example, today's exhibition, sales and bidding, the total income should be in the millions, right? It was just that the 7 days a week of the Fragrant Pig banquet in the glorious hotel was finally auctioned for a sky-high price of 500,000 yuan. The 50 bottles of alpaca amniotic fluid were sold for $500,000. The dozens of cute hamster pets were also sold for more than $150,000. Not including the proceeds from the 5 pig feasts and the tickets to the exhibition, Link had already earned $1.15 million. There's a million, but you can't sell too much of this thing. Once there's a lot on the market, it won't be worth much. These things are sold as rare. Link explained. On the contrary, Li Zijun was very interested in this little pig. If his special forces could eat little pigs, the strength and spirit of the soldiers, even their recovery, would be improved again. Unfortunately, the price was so high that it made people flinch. Li Zijun was just about to ask when Ah Fu ran over anxiously and said, "Boss, 3 commanders' wives are outside. They want to see you. They all want to buy alpaca perfume." Hearing this, Benjamin and Li Zijun immediately straightened their bodies, their faces full of shock. Link was also dazed for a moment. He couldn't help but ask, "If I'm not mistaken, the other side should be giving out the final award right now, right? Why aren't the 3 commanders' wives on stage to receive their awards? Why are you here in my small exhibition hall?" Fu wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, "It's all because we're too popular here." All the noble ladies from the other side ran over to snatch the alpaca perfume and pet hamster. In the end, the 3 commanders' wives didn't even attend the award ceremony and came over. "I heard that the theater across the street is empty now," Fu said, trying hard not to laugh. "It seems like I've underestimated women," said Link, stunned. "I didn't expect them to be so crazy. But since the alpaca perfume has been sold out, tell them that it's out of stock and we'll wait for the next batch." As soon as Link finished speaking, 3 people barged into the backstage. They were dressed extravagantly, but they looked fierce on the outside. "Which one of you is Link?" The moment he opened his mouth, he was full of himself. Sweeping his gaze across the backstage, he saw Benjamin and Li Zijun, and said, "Oh, the Mun family's kid is here too. This must be Link," Mrs. Wimbledon said in a condescending manner. "I'm Link," said Link as he stood up. "You must be Mrs. Winletone, right? The other 2 are Mrs. Fernandez and Mrs. Dai." Mrs. Wimbledon's voice was sharp, giving people a feeling of acrimony. She snorted coldly and said, "It's good that you know. We're here for alpaca perfume. Give us 10 bottles each." Link furrowed his brows. The man's tone made it sound like it's your honor to give me something. There was no respect in his words at all. Instead, it sounded like he was ordering a servant around. "I'm sorry, the first batch of alpaca perfume has been sold out. If you want it, you'll have to wait for the next batch. Or, you can buy it from other people who have bought it before." "No? You're lying to us, right? Do you think we don't know about perfume production? How can we just limit it to 50 bottles? Humph, I advise you to take it out today. My husband is the commander of the special forces in Chitu. I just need to ask him to check and he'll be able to find out your production line. By then, it won't be us who'll be asking you for it." Mrs. Dai rolled her eyes and said, "You 3 are being too aggressive. Since Link already said he doesn't have any, it's not appropriate for you to force him. Why don't you wait until the second batch is out?" Li Zijun's tone was calm, as if she had expected such a reaction from the 3 of them. "What right do you have to speak to us? Aren't you just a team leader under Commander Mun Kingdom? What's the difference between you and my family's servants? Is this how the Mun family disciplines their servants?" Chapter 230. A summary after the exhibition. 3 ladies, that's enough. Don't go too far. The innocent Benjamin's face darkened. He had treated Li Zijun as an older brother who had accompanied him as he grew up and had never treated her as a servant. However, the 3 of them kept calling him a dog and a servant, completely not putting Benjamin in their eyes. Insulting military personnel, I'll remember all of this. Li Ziki waved the recording pen in her hand and replayed the conversation they had earlier. The 3 ladies' faces were ashen, and they were so angry that they clenched their teeth. "You despicable man, you actually recorded it. The corners of Li Zijun's mouth raised into a smile, as if the insults just now were not directed at him. I've long heard that the three madams are nitpicking and their words are sharp and unkind. How can you not hold back? General Alongso once issued a military protection order that the family members of any military personnel are not allowed to interfere with the operation of the troops, and they are also not allowed to insult the troops or soldiers, or they will be severely punished. A trace of fear appeared in the eyes of Mrs. Wimbledon and the other two. They immediately changed the topic and looked at Link. Quickly give us the alpaca perfume. We'll leave after you give us the perfume. I don't want to stay with those smelly bumpkins from the slums. I'm sorry, Link shrugged, they're really sold out. This thing isn't going to be mass-produced anyway, so we can only wait for the next batch to come out so that the three madams can come earlier to line up and order. Then what is this? Mrs. Wimbledon pointed to the packaging at Benjamin and Li Zijun's feet. There were clearly a few bottles of perfume inside. Oh, this is my gift to them after all. Benjamin and Captain Li had put in a lot of effort in this animal show, and the venue and personnel were coordinated by them. It was not too much to give a few bottles of perfume, right? If the three of you really want it, you can ask the two of them and see if they're willing to part with it. Mrs. Wimbledon bit her cheek in pain. He had just scolded Li Zijun in front of Benjamin. It was almost impossible for her to ask for a few bottles of alpaca perfume. However, when he thought about how he had guaranteed that he would definitely be able to get the perfume before he came in, if he went out empty-handed, wouldn't he be laughed at by the other noble ladies? All right, I hope you'll be responsible for what you said today. Mrs. Wimbledon glanced at the packaging at Benjamin and Li Zijun's feet, then turned around and left in anger. As soon as the three of them left, a new mission appeared in Link's system. You have triggered the C-rank mission, The Revenge of the Commander's Wife. Mission hint: your actions have angered the petty commander's wife, who will attack Kylin Hall in all ways. You must defend your own business until they are unable to do anything to you. Mission reward: 150000 experience points, 2 random blue materials. Just as Link accepted the mission, another system message popped up. The Rare Animals exhibition was successfully held. The creatures and products in the exhibition have improved the reputation of Kylin Hall. Your influence has increased by 1. He was rewarded with another point of influence. Link's eyes brightened. He now had 4 points of influence. Influence was a good thing. The more influence he had, the more familiar the NPCs would be with him, and the easier it would be to trigger some hidden missions. In addition, a high influence would also play a vital role in the Kylin Hall's recruitment of new people. Of course, the most important thing was that once Link's influence exceeded 5 points, he would become a well-known existence in the entire Shitu. The NPCs would also spread his wonderful stories. This kind of fame during the open beta would bring him many hidden benefits. Imagine if a player in the Sand Capital heard about Link's achievements from the NPCs all day long. Would he be tempted? And then increase its weight in the players' hearts? With such a high status, the players who were willing to follow Link's orders would flock to him. Link, are you worried that the 3 commanders' wives will take revenge on you? Li Ziki saw that Link was in a daze and couldn't help but ask. She then explained, General Alongso said that no force is allowed to get involved in the conflicts in the slums, so the possibility of them directly retaliating is not high. However, there were many people around these 3 who wanted to flatter them. As long as they showed the slightest bit of unhappiness, there would be people who would do things for them. There's no lack of lone wolf killers or people with requests among them. Link, you must be careful. The best way now is to set up the Shadu Special Operation Battalion as soon as possible and issue you a letter of appointment. With the military's identity, these women won't dare to cause trouble. Link glanced at Li Zijun and snorted, but didn't you get scolded so badly just now? In the end, you only dared to record your threats. Li Zijun shrugged her shoulders helplessly. There's no choice. Our commander is out on a mission. Our fox hunting special forces stationed in Shandu are like children without parents. We don't get any benefits. The commander once said that if there's no good environment, we should create it ourselves. That's why I'm keeping a recording so that I can extort money from the Air Force, Army, and Special Forces. I didn't expect the thick-browed and big-eyed Captain Li to be so scheming, said Link jokingly, shaking his head. Li Zijun was not angry and did not put on any airs. She said helplessly, I was forced by the situation. Link's Rare Animal Exhibition 1. The novel Animals and the 3 bombshells announced would definitely be the focus of tomorrow's news report. On the other hand, the entire theater was empty and filled with chicken feathers for the Rare Animal Beauty Contest organized by the Shadow Entertainment News. And Sheng would never have thought that someone had used their connections to find him just to find a reason to reject Link's participation. He didn't expect that Link would organize a battle against him in the blink of an eye, which ended in his defeat. This time, he would definitely become the laughingstock of the traditional media circles in Shadow. At night, everyone was celebrating in the Kailan Hall. Today's battle was fought beautifully. He had successfully weakened the momentum of Shandu Entertainment News. Moreover, if this news about the Rare Animal Beauty Contest were to spread in the future, he was afraid that he would become a laughingstock. It was the biggest joke in the world that even the 3 winners of the award ceremony had run away. Also, all of Link's plans were going according to plan. Rare animals were on fire, and pet hamsters were sold out in an instant. Most of the buyers were rich kids from the uptown. The first stage of Link's Animal Intelligence Network was completed. The sales of alpaca perfume were so hot that it would probably set off a wave in the fashion world of Shadow after tonight, and people would be proud of having alpaca perfume. The subsequent improvement of the alpaca perfume and the change of fragrance had to be put on the agenda. Finally, there was also the brand of Fragrant Pig Banquet, which became popular as soon as it appeared. The audience who had attended the exhibition now knew that Kailan Hall had a kind of pork that could cure diseases and strengthen the body. As the new representative of the high-end food and beverage in Shandu, the Fragrant Pig Banquet had a precise slogan. It was believed that in the near future, the rich and powerful of the uptown would flock to it. Even the glorious hotel and the high-end restaurants under the Newman family would burst out with new vitality. In the end, all the security work at the exhibition today was done by the men from Kailan Hall. Their outstanding performance laid a firm foundation for Kailan Hall's future business transformation.